practical observations. What's actually going on down there? The floor is yours, Captain.
Well, this whole recent surge has been orchestrated. The administration knew about this, probably created it themselves months ago. In fact, the government was soliciting for contractors back in January for people to tend to these children. As it would happen, some 90% of the people coming over the border right now are in their teens or are older. So we're again being led to believe these are like toddlers coming across the border who somehow miraculously managed to travel clear across Mexico on their own, which is certainly not the case. They're being smuggled and trafficked here, and our own government is allowing this to happen. The smugglers happen to be the drug cartels. So, in effect, we are aiding and abetting a criminal enterprise that is notoriously violent and deadly. So, it makes me wonder who's in bed with who in our administration. It was very unnerving to know that we have political leaders, people who swore an oath to support and defend the U.S. Constitution, who have clearly violated the U.S. Constitution on so many different levels, and yet they get a free pass.
Yeah, absolutely. As we reported here on Worldtalk a couple of weeks ago, it is our opinion that the members of the Obama administration, Department of Homeland Security, and everyone involved in this scam is in violation of Federal Immigration and Nationality Act of U.S. Section 8, 1324, and Section 274 felonies, which includes knowingly assisting illegal aliens due to personal convictions or encourages illegal aliens to remain in the U.S. By offering employment or transporting, sheltering, or assisting him or her to obtain employment. I really think we have more than ample legal grounds to bring federal charges of racketeering and conspiracy under RICO statutes against basically the entire Obama administration and most of the leadership of the Democratic Party, as well as a number of Republicans. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I absolutely agree. There's don't want to use that word, but there is a conspiracy taking place here. This has been orchestrated, it's been planned and designed, and I'm sure there are people who are pocketing money for this. The same with the drug trade. There's some sort of agreements with people in government with these smuggling outfits, and it said the cartels and the drug and human smugglers are the same people. There's no distinction. They're the same operators. They're the same. What I want to call. Let's just put it what they are. These people are savages. They exploit their own people for financial gain. And here we have people in this country, specifically political leaders. Plus, there's got to be some sort of arrangement with financial institutions to launder all these ill-gotten gains, because there's an awful lot of money involved. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you just can't take suitcases of money and sneak them across the border. We have banks in this country who are directly responsible for this, who from time to time do get caught and get a little slap on the wrist. But there's billions of dollars at play here, and these people are not going to give up that money too easily. So that is the nature of our game here. We have to expose these people and embarrass them and get them on the run. Because at this point in time, they still feel they're inside their comfort zone, and they're going to continue to go on business as usual. There's people raking their money hand over fist on this, and there's all sorts of payoffs. The biggest one right now coming up is this $4 billion that Obama wants to throw at this new problem. Well, what he's doing is they're sending this money to religious organizations, Catholic charities, and all these different groups that operate under the auspices of assisting refugees. Well, if we think back a few years to an organization called Acorn, that was organized and run by a black woman by the name of Bertha Lewis. They received quite a bit of money through the Obama campaign and the subsequent administration, and then they got caught on the carpet. They broke up into splinter organizations. And a lot of these charitable groups are part of the old Acorn. It's the same people with a new business with a different name. And once again, we have a crisis that was fabricated, and we have the sudden urgency to fund it. And, well, it appears that Congress right now is seeing through this one and are stalling the funding. Hopefully they'll continue to stall it throughout the upcoming recess of Congress.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I feel as well that the email trail that's been exposed where the Obama administration, the Department of Homeland Security, allegedly was looking for contractors and nannies and transports for these children all the way back in January, that they were well aware that this was going to occur. And so it really is looking like it was, an entirely a contrived situation on the part of the Democratic Party and the one worlders within our government. And in your opinion, what would be the reason? Is it purely a profit motive that's driving these members of our Congress to pursue this open borders policy? Is it purely greed and payoff? Is it political ideology? What is it, in your opinion, that's driving this movement to erase that border? What's behind it ultimately, Captain?
Well, it's not purely a financial. It's a big part of it, but the current administration and Democrat Party, which has been taken over by, well, it's been subverted by Marxists and, communists for that matter, and they've learned that they can't change the current American population into voting for Marxist ideologies. So their next move is to not change our way of thinking, but to change the voters. We'll bring all these people into the country. They will have children. They will have lots of children, and they will vote their way. And this has been discussed quite freely on mostly alternate media at this point. But it's not changed the vote. They're changing the voters out on us. This is a demographic thing. They want to replace, white America with brown America, and at that time we'll also have people who will vote their way. Now, this is nothing new. This is actually an old strategy being replayed out with a different demographic group. This was done back in the 1960s during the Johnson administration with the Civil Rights Act and some other programs that came into play. And LBJ, himself said he'd have a particular demographic group voting Democrat for 200 years. Well, they're still voting that way, and it's really not helping them, but they still will. So, again, this is partly to affect policy for the next 50 to 100 years, that they want to have people voting left. And the only way they can do that is by growing a new crop of voters. And the brown Marxist-leaning people to the south are the candidates that they want to bring up here to do that with.
Yeah. So you say then what you're basically, in a nutshell, what you're saying here is that the Democratic Party and the one worlders in general are simply altering the demographics of America deliberately to replace those that oppose their policies with a group of people that view their policies more favorably. or deliberate, or another way of stating it would be importing a mindset and an ideology.
That's exactly what they want to do. That way they will ensure that they are in power indefinitely for a long time to come.
Well, you certainly have to give them credit for being forward-thinking, because it really looks like they are, really taking a long-term approach to this strategy.
Well, it's a long game plan. Of course, the human lifespan is about 60 years, plus or minus 10 years, but this is a long-term business plan. They've been, working a lot in small increments for generations, and to get what they want, they're very patient, and they do have the luxury of doing this in small increments, bit by bit, and again, the biggest obstacle is white America. So they'll attempt to phase this out simply by numbers. And when you import, 20 or 30 million Marxist-leaning people, they will breed quite a few more. So imagine in a couple of decades' time, there being some 400 million people in the United States. There's only approximately 315 million here right now. So add a 25% to our current population, and again, that ensures that they have the power they want. And then on top of that, they're talking about splitting up states like California into more than one state, which of course will give them congressional and senatorial representation on that level. So again, that's another scheme for them to ensure that they have their left-leaning votes.
Yeah, that's something that had occurred to me recently as well, when I started hearing about the proposals to break up the state of California into as many as 5 or 6 separate states that our listening audience needs to be aware of. Remember, this would dramatically change the demographics and the complexion of the Senate, because under the current system and setup, every state has 2 senators. So this would immediately dump like 8, 10, 12 new senators if we're just talking about the state of California alone. And this could, dramatically alter the composition in the direction that the Senate would go in the future.
That's what they want to do. They want to create a set of circumstances, and they have multiple facets to their operation. 1, import this population. 2, try to alter the makeup of our country to get the goods. This is all about getting the voting. Democracy, is essentially going to vote white America into the cooking pot by changing the composition of our country. And with their prolific breeding rate and our aging white population, they feel pretty confident they can do this. So it's in our best interest to start standing up. We learned in the 1960s that the blacks got what they wanted because they stood up and got angry, and people became afraid of them, and government appeased them. We should take a lesson from them and start standing up and getting angry and letting our representatives know we mean business and we're serious about saving our country from this mess.